this is Hooked by Happenstance. I'm Kendra, and it is time for another episode of Makes Monday. Today's word of the week, month, time, is January. I always like to start this crochet podcast off by telling you about a word that kind of sums up something about what we're going to talk about moving forward, and that is the projects I have completed and working on, what have you, in my crochet life, and a little bit about what's been going on in my personal life. So, today's podcast is titled January. Well, the definition of January is it is the first month of the year, and we are going to be covering everything I completed in the month of January. Because while I did make a podcast at the very beginning of the month, I talked about what I had completed through the end of 2018. So we have a whole month of stuff that I've gotten done, and we're going to talk about it all. So January is named for the Roman god Janus, who is frequently depicted with two faces, one looking forward and one looking back, which seems appropriate when it comes to the first month of the year because you're looking back on things you did, looking forward to what you're going to do. Sounds a little like a Sunday sunrise if you ask me, but Janus is also known as the god of doorways and looking forward and backward. As such, Janus is also interesting because it gave rise to a word called Janus words, which are words that have two opposite meanings because they're like looking in opposite directions, same word. So one of the prime examples of Janus words is the word cleave, which can mean to break apart when you cleave something, or it can mean hold together. Opposite meanings, very same word. Or in a more like colloquial sense, wicked. Wicked means things that are bad and like forbidden, or wicked means things that are really cool. They're wicked whatever. I mean, when you read all of these entomological blogs, which I might have done for quite a bit of time for quite a lot of fun, but they basically just give you a lot of the same definitions, but there are a lot of different Janus words to choose from. I am super out of practice at filming these, so this is going to probably have a lot of cuts because it's just, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to get to practice my old editing computery skills, and you probably won't even know the difference. But if I'm jumbling all over my words, that's just kind of where I'm at today. I've not been feeling super great the last week or so for various reasons, but I'm feeling a lot better at this very moment, so I'm going to just hold on to that and hope that means that I really am feeling better. All right, let's talk about this giant heap behind me, which is all of the things that I finished. I have them all written down here. I know, like notes. There are 18 items on this list. First thing that I finished is this here, which is my Jovial Juniper Shawlette. This was the pattern that was part of Jolly Joy and Other Junk on my Patreon. You can still access the pattern on Peachlet's Pattern Pile. This one has just a wee bit of beads on the end, but not a lot. This is made out of Lion Brand Shawl and a Cake in the color Prism, which has these lovely like teals and greens and purples and such, and does not match my current outfit at all, but I quite enjoy it. I've worn it quite a lot. This is usually the way that I wear it. It's cute. If you'd like to see more pictures of me wearing it with an outfit it actually kind of matches, there are some on my Instagram at Hooked by Happenstance. So I finished this, and I still had a little bit of yarn left, and I had a square on my bingo board for January. Let's think about doing a new pattern. And so I made this little hair accessory. I literally just made the flower motif and tied it off, and then I shoved a bobby pin through the back. But it allows me to stick it in my hair at a fun and jaunty angle. I did use a pattern for this. I am not going to tell you what pattern I used because I didn't like it very much, and I think I made changes. I made it work based on what was there, so I'm not going to share the pattern name with you because, yeah, I don't want to recommend it, but I also don't want to say no because it could have been me who messed up. So, Prism flower for my hair, Jovial Juniper Shawlette. Next thing that I finished is actually still waiting for buttons, but I have not been to town since New Year's. Like we spent a whole month without going to Manhattan at all. We did go once to Walmart to do some shopping, but we have not done like out and about. The weather's not been great. It's been nice to save a little money, all those things. So this is a sweater that I started for my husband for Christmas. I finished it in the first weeks of January because I want to make sure it got done. It was one of the things, if you have seen the last podcast when Steve and I talked about all the things that he wanted me to make this year, and this was one of them, which was finishing up the sweater. This is using the Reminisce cardigan pattern by Heidi May of the Velvet Acorn, one of my go-to sweater patterns, and it is made out of Pound of Love in this color, Claret, which I love because it's a Pound of Love color that doesn't look like a baby. It's a nice, deep, saturated color, which you don't always find in Pound of Love. I'm hopeful this means that they are going to be moving more in that direction, maybe, because it is a nice put-up for things like this. And it's an affordable way to get a large quantity of yarn to make like a sweater. But, yeah, the baby colors, just most of the time are not it. So he wanted to have gray around the cuffs and the button band, but he wanted the waistband in the Claret, so that's what I did. And we still need to get buttons, but it fits him, and he likes it, and he's looking forward to getting to start wearing this. And I would like him to get to wear it before it stops being cold, but I also don't necessarily want it to be cold forever. At the rate we're going, we're not going to the store very soon. But when we do, buttons will happen. Next is another sweater. This is made out of the Reminisce sweater as well, though I say that super loosely. I used the Reminisce sweater pattern to get the numbers for the starting of this, and then I made a whole bunch of changes. This is for my kid. He picked out his own yarn and wanted it to be fun and textured, so I made it fun and textured. Just using the proportions that I knew this pattern needed. And then he wanted a hood on it, so I added a hood. And he wanted something fun on the hood, so I added a little edging. And it's super cute when it's on. However, he has not been wearing it yet because I bought a zipper just the other day because he wants a zipper in it instead of buttons. So we're going to try that out. I bought a separating zipper. It did not occur to me when I offered the zipper option. I was thinking like, hello, I have tons of zippers. I knew I had zippers that would match. But I have zippers for making project bags, so they are not separating, which means that he would not be able to get out of the bottom of it. So I bought a separating zipper, which will be installed here shortly. I just finished using the stuff I was using on my sewing machine so I can change the thread out. I mean, I could have changed the thread out before, but I was being lazy. And I didn't want to have to deal with it. But now I can. So this is coming along. I'm really happy with the way the texture turned out. It feels really nice. This is Red Heart Super Saver Stripes in the color Polo. Which I don't know where they got Polo for these colors, but you know my thoughts on naming yarn. The next thing are these. And I don't know if I've worn these since the last time they were washed. Probably, because it looks like they have some dog fur on them. So, apologies. But that's what happens. Socks get washed and then they go on my feet. And then we just keep playing that game. These were a Let Peach Lit pick from, oh gosh, probably September, October-ish. It was the fourth thing she picked in this most recent round. And these are some toe-up socks. I was originally going to make the Azalea sock pattern by Ron Strong. I started it, couldn't stand it. I didn't really like working it, and I didn't like the way it felt on my foot. So I improvised myself and just did a plain extended single crochet sock. And then I did a ton of this ribbing, which I really like. These fit so good. These are made out of some mill ends. I bought a bunch of like three or four colors of mill end sock yarn from Joann's and like those mill end bags, and then they were on an extra sale, and so they were like a super good deal. I did this a few years ago. I just had them in stash. I'm finally working through it all, but I'm gonna have a bunch of socks in this color because I have a lot of yarn in this color. So I made these, and I have been wearing them basically as soon as they're clean. They go on my feet, and I wear them a number of days, and then they get washed, and then they've just been going that way round and round. I worked on this a bunch over New Year's Eve. This is actually how I rang in the new year, was working on these socks, which I had started for that Let Peach Let Pick. Then they kind of went by the wayside for a bit, and I was putting off finishing them, and then I got a bee in my bonnet about it, and now they're done, and I have wonderful socks. And these taught me a lot about what things I do like about socks, and we'll talk about that because I figured it out from some things that I don't like about other socks. In case you're counting, we are 1/3 of the way through. This is number 6. This is using some Vanna's Glamour in the color Platinum. This is my Jovial Junipers hat, a pattern that will very, very shortly be up in Peachlet's pattern pile. It has a tree on the front, which matches the Jovial Junipers chalette, but the thing I like about this hat is, as you can see, it has a lace section, and then it has this textured section. So you can wear it 2 ways. Now I have pigtails in, I don't have a mirror, so let's look in the window reflection. So yes, so it's probably not completely zhuzhed right, but I can wear it this way with like the lacy section slouched, and it's like you have 2 hats. You have like the textured version this way, which is not the way I ordinarily wear it, but I totally can. And then it also, I wear it this way, has the lacy section. So, again, I have weird bumps on my head because of the pigtails, but that is that. It is super, super sparkly, and I've actually, I've worn this a decent amount since I finished it. I've made several versions of these. I really do like the Vanna's Glamour for this hat. I have it in, this hat in 3 colors of Vanna's Glamour now, which is not a yarn that I really thought I would have worked in. I bought it, 2 skeins of it on a whim to do like a pattern design for somebody else a while ago. It's just been floating around the stash, but it's real glitzy. If you're looking for something real glitzy with a little bit of stretch, Vanna's Glamour, that's your yarn. And it's affordable too, especially when it goes on sale. It goes a long way for what it is. Next is something that has been sitting around for a while. Kind of like finishing up those socks that were things that Peachlet picked for me. I have been like on a mission kind of to finish things. Not sure with like a feeling of like new year, new me, or I have to finish things, so it's the new year. It was mostly just that I was moving some things around in here because I needed to clean up to make room for a few things. And when I did that, I unearthed some projects that had just been like sitting around and they were taking up space that I didn't want taken up anymore. So it either meant I needed to freak out about them and put them on my hook, or I needed to frog them. Even though these things did not all become Freak or Frog episodes, they were just things that I found that I implemented that feeling on. And I frogged a lot of things. A lot of projects that I worked on, designs that were in progress, a lot of things have gone out of my life as items and into my life as reclaimed stash. And I did all of that off camera for various reasons, mostly because I wanted it to be something I was doing for me. I didn't necessarily want to be told repeatedly that people would not have frogged a thing that I was frogging because it was mostly done or because they liked the way it looked. If I'm not happy with it and I'm not going to use it and I'm the one that has to finish it, then I should frog it if that's what I want to do, or finish it if that's what I want to do. So, anyways, this is the first cogitation wrap, cogitation number 1. This is the fingering weight variety. These are made out of a number of colors of loops and threads wool-like. So you might notice that it's no longer a wrap. I turned it into a cowl, and I really, really like this. I've worn it a few times, and I will wear it some more now that it's not in this heap. But I like it because I can double it over twice. And so it's like super smooshy, but still light feeling because it is fingering weight. And I like the openness, like the laciness, but still the density of the stitching because of the stitch patterns I used. There's a lot of air to the stitches, so it has that like nice bouncy feeling, but there's not so many holes that like I'm constantly getting fingers and things caught in it, which is really pleasant as a wearable item. So what had made me not finish this for so long? This has been sitting folded up on my shelf looking at me for like a year, I think. since April. So I guess it's been like 8 months, but too long is how long it's been over there. And what was standing in my way was all of these stripes. These stripes each had 2 ends of yarn that needed to be woven in. Because I didn't want to muddy the stripes, I didn't work over the yarn. And it's fingering, and I didn't want to weave in all those ends. So what to do? Well, I decided to put an edging on instead, and I just went right over all of those edges. There's ends worked over on all the ends. And I actually really like it. I did a round of purple, and then a round of white, a round of the burgundy, the brown, and the gray. So I did kind of a variation on different stitches around it. I like the way it turned out. Again, it feels so nice. This is so pleasant. I'm going to take it off because I'm going to show you other things. So many things. So, that is not the only wrap that I had finished, but not finished. Another thing that was just sitting on my shelf, waiting for its end purpose in life, was this. This is the first reading shawl I made for the first series of yarn tales that I did. If you have not been around for very long, or if you haven't watched all my content, I started a series that I called Yarn Tales, where I read books, I tell you about those books, and then I make a reading shawl to commemorate reading those books. Now, this is how I did the first yarn shawl. The newest Yarn Tales, starting a new yarn shawl, which is going to be different. But this reading shawl, I read books, and then based on things that happened in them, I came up with color schemes and stitch patterns that kind of matched and went along with the books to help me remember reading them. And so, let's see. I have Exit West, Matched, Stargirl, Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. No, this is some Vanna's Glamour. Oh, what did I read after that? Oh, gosh. Oh, this is The Rest of Us Just Live Here. I don't remember which book this is. Ooh. I don't remember which book this is. This is Harry Potter. This is... Oh... the V.E. Schwab book, something about magic. It has multiple, like, kingdoms and stuff. This is History Is All You Left Me, which is one of my absolutely favorite books that I have read in a very, very long time. This is Turtles All the Way Down, which I'm very attached to, even though it's an okay book. This, oh gosh, Love is a character. I don't remember the name of it. This is Simple as Snow, which was a terrible book. I didn't like it. And this is, it's a book of short stories that I read. I don't remember what its name is either. So clearly, these all trigger memories of what the books are about, except these two. I guess if I really thought about it, I could probably figure out which books I remember reading last year that I have not enumerated, but y'all don't want to sit here and hear about that. So go and watch my Yarn Tales videos if you're interested in that. And now I have woven in all the ends, which is why this had just been sitting on a shelf, is that the ends were not woven in on like half of it. So my initial intent had been that I could like use this as like a reading shawl, like when I was reading. It'd keep me all warm and cozy. And that idea is still good, but I frequently already have so many yarny bits on that having like a yarny bit that's so specific. And this is loud even for me to like wear publicly. Like it looks like I'm wearing a wall hanging. So with that in mind, it's going to become a wall hanging. Now that I've showed it to you, it's actually going to go and hang right behind you on the wall of one of my shelving units. And then I can look at it. So it'll be fun art for my office. But now it's done. I'm happy. And it's another one of those things that I could check off my mental, like, I knew that hadn't been finished. I knew it was hanging over me. I also knew that I didn't want to start another reading shawl till I finished that one. And I finished this one, so now I felt good about starting the new series of Yarn Tales. So, I guess I'll talk about that next, even though I have something I finished before this. So I have finished the first 2 segments of my newest reading shawl. If you have saw the first episode of Yarn Tales, it got dark real fast. We had some weird weather here where it was just super bright because of the snow. So everything in my house looked blown out during the daylight hours. And then we had an ice storm, which actually made the lights that work in my office, my like overhead lights, they were like constantly flickering because of the LED nature of them, and our electricity was being funky. But that's all better now, so yay. But I snuck in filming that video in, like, as soon as it got dark enough that it wasn't blowing out through the windows in here. But before I had to use my, like, lights that were blinky, I filmed that video. Well, my video took me, like, I think it took me 15 minutes total to film, and I think you all saw 12 minutes of footage. And in that time, literally, the sun went down. And I was not going to try and film it another day, because I do find with the book videos, like, saying your first impressions a second time just sounds disingenuous. Like, there's an authenticity that you lose in that. So anyways, this is where we're at after 2 books. I have the video for If You Come Softly will be out before this podcast. So go and look at that. And this is what I'm doing. I'm working in 4 different yarns. 1 for books that I've read with my kids. 1 for books that are part of Life's Library, which is a subscription service I'm part of. 1 that is for audiobooks that I listen to by myself. And 1 is for physical books that I read by myself, like without my kids. And some of the kids' books won't end up in here because we read a lot of books. But some of them that I consider, like, for this purpose are books that I'm going to include. So basically, each book I'm going through and doing a segment in a different stitch pattern which I've come up with. And then I am assigning a star rating, 1 through 5, to each of the books. And then there is that many rows of textured stitching after it. So, like, you can see I liked this book more than I liked this book. And that will become apparent in the striping. So, I am very excited about that. And I had stitch markers to put in it because in all that frogging I did, I rescued a lot of stitch markers. This, I guess I will tell you the 2 yarns that I used. The first one was gifted to me by Carla, and it was this. The first color is Bebop 100% Superwash Merino yarn in the colorway Heather, and it looks like this in the ball. So it's like mostly brown with some pops of purple, lavender, and blues. And then for the books from Life's Library, it is from Cattails yarn. It is this yarn, which is a DK, they're all DK weight. DK weight, it's called Verlaine. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% silk. I am not sure exactly which base this is on for sure. I think it might have changed because she sent this to me like a year ago when she very first started dyeing yarn. This is from Cattails yarn. So those are the current Yarn Tales shawl, and I have read more books and finished things in part because I want to add them to the shawl. So the shawl is doing its job of helping me expand and do other things. I was talking with my husband the other day about how I have an issue with having hobbies that don't have like product. It really helps me to see an end thing. Well, lots of the things I do as a process crafter, which is why, like, I'm okay with frogging things or turning things into different things than they were meant to be initially. I do like to see a physical, like, manifestation of what I did. And I have a problem with reading in that doesn't happen anymore. But I used to read a lot, and I loved it. And I would like to read more and convince my brain that it's really okay to enjoy the act of reading, which my brain is really enjoying. Though a lot of things I read as audiobooks, because then I can do other things simultaneously, so I can get the product that way. But the reading shawl can become a physical manifestation of a thing that I'm doing that doesn't have one otherwise. So it is a nice way for me to catalog the books I read, see progress, see that I did a thing, because there is a thing, and it gives me good means to just go back and remember and talk about what I've been working on. So we're all benefiting from this reading shawl, you and I, and you get to hear me tell you what I think about different books. And believe me, the books I have read this month are varied. Very varied. Alright, so the next thing that I finished is the cogitation number 1, same as the cowl. These use the same, whoop, I just dropped, oh, there it is. So these use the identical pattern. This one is fingering weight. This one is worsted weight, and it is made out of Bernat Mosaic in the Optimistic colorway. I worked on this bunches when I went on my retreat. If you'll remember, I went and spent several days alone in a cabin on a lake, and this is what I did. Well, a lot of what I did. So I had this gigantic wrap. I say these are the same. This actually is not quite as many. There's more pattern than this encompasses. So this is approximately where I was when I got home from that retreat, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to keep making it longer. So my initial thought had been that I would wear it as like a wrap like this, but then when I started looking at it, I realized that there were so many other options and ways that would make it like super functional in my wardrobe. So what I ended up doing was putting some buttons in some strategic locations. There's one here on this corner, and then there is a line of buttons here and another button here on this corner. Now that means that this can totally still be worn as a wrap. I can wear it like wrapped around my neck. There's several different ways, but it also means that I can wear it like wrapped around me like this, and then I have figured out where I like fold the neck down a bit like this, and then I wrap it around and over itself, and these back buttons hook into some of the holes in the back, and then I take this line of buttons and it hooks through some of the naturally occurring buttonholes in the front, and it allows me to wear it kind of like a sweater, kind of like a poncho. There's actually an even more poncho-y way that I have worked out to wear it, but I've been enjoying wearing it that way so much. If you want to see it on me, I was wearing it in I think it's week 2 of January's Sunday Sunrise. This is what I am wearing. And I've worn it several other times since then. And now that I can take it out of this pile, I will wear it many, many more times. And you will see it then. I also finished a hat for Steve. It was one of the things he mentioned in his things that he wanted for the year. I made him a red hat out of some Premier Everyday. He has it on his head right now. He has worn it to work, so I do not have it to show you. I will try to remember to borrow it from him and or take a picture and show you in the future. But for right now, I made a hat. Nothing super special. I made up the pattern myself, so that's that. The next thing I made, I had started like on a whim. You know what happened? I was real cold one day in like November or early December. And I think I might have even been like procrastinating doing something else. I probably was. I mean, this is me we're talking about. And so I had some more mill ends. I had some of this bulky black, and it, the way that it's plied, it was very loose, and I didn't want to use it by itself. I thought that it was going to not be strong enough. So what I did was I held it double. I've worn this several times since the last time I washed it. So it's got fur and I think some other stuff on it. So just ignore that. But I held it double with some Red Heart Super Saver in the color Mulberry Mix, and freehanded this tunic for myself. It's fairly heavy. It's not heavy when you're wearing it in a way where it feels heavy, but it's heavy in the way that like this is really warm. And I've worn it several times. I wore it with like a long sleeve black shirt under it and some leggings, and it is so cozy and comfy for me. So this is just a brooch that I have on here because it looks cuter that way, and this also looks cuter on a person than it does by itself. But I just went ahead and figured out what size I wanted, made raglan increases to do the sleeves, did a little bit of body shaping in and out, and then on the bottom I put kind of a lacy lace edge. So it's real cute. I'm looking forward to wearing it even as the weather warms up some. As it gets progressively warmer, then I can just start wearing like a camisole under it instead of a long sleeve shirt. I will probably have to always wear leggings or capri leggings underneath it because it's a little short in the back. That's what makes it more a tunic than a dress. But that was how much yarn I had, so I had to just go with it. I didn't really have a choice to add much length because I have no clue what this yarn is. And if I did, the only reason I would want to know is because I would probably not work with it again. But it worked out well holding it double with another acrylic that felt stronger and less like pilly. So we'll see how this holds up. Either way, I'm at least enjoying it for this winter, and we'll see how it holds up in years to come. So, in all of these things seem to reference other videos that I've made. Not that I've made a lot of videos this month, but I did talk about some of these things already. So you have heard me talk in the Freaker Frog that I did about my Freaker Frog success story, which is this little cardigan that I made. And I don't think you couldn't see it all. Again, I was having weird lighting issues that day too, so the way that I ended up filming was haphazard and like immediate. So this was originally some, I believe, these are Lion Brand Jiffy, and then like the reddish color I think is Thick and Quick. But again, I started this project so long ago. I made hats and fingerless mitts for sale out of some yarn that I got on like super clearance at Walmart. So I bought everything they had, made these. It was when I was still going to craft shows. But I personally never like really marketed them, if I even took them out at shows, because I was not happy with the hats. I had followed the instructions precisely, even though I met Gage and things. I followed the instructions for the hats, but I did not like the hat size and the way they turned out, even though I made multiples of them. I tell you, sometimes when you're in like that fog before a craft show, you do stupid things because you just want it done. And you just want the stuff to be there, and you don't think because you're just like, move on to the next thing. My list is too long. So what ends up happening is years later, you have these hats that you never want to sell because you don't like them, and you don't even want to donate them or anything because you don't think the quality is good enough even for that. So you frog them, and then you turn them into this giant, weird-shaped wrap, which is what I did originally. And I actually loved that wrap. There's multiple videos on the channel of me wearing it, so these colors look familiar, and I'm wearing a thing that's, like, wrapped around me 3 times. That's what it is. But that wrap was a little unwieldy. It would have been fine if I had, like, a desk job where I could sit and be in it and, like, just typity-type, or not just, like, not bend up and down the way I do in my house with my kids and stuff and cooking and, you know, I don't do a lot of just being still and upright in a way where that worked. So I had been looking at this wrap and trying to decide what I was going to do with it. I eventually just decided to frog it. Now, there had been, like, a beige off-white color in it that just never sat right with me. It was kind of like this color. And I just didn't like it with this color progression. Now, I know these are not colors that everybody would necessarily put together anyways, but I really kind of love it. And I probably would not have put these together if I was like walking in the aisle like, what would I get? I probably would not have put these together, but happenstance and that clearance aisle put them together for me. And I decided to make a cardigan, and I decided I would see how long it went. I originally actually was going to make a cape. And I started just doing raglan increases because I liked that idea for a cape anyways. I was going to do something short that like buttoned in the front. Well, when I got to this far, I tried it over my shoulders and it was so cozy. And I realized I had enough to keep going and make it a full cardigan without sleeves. Which is fine because, like I said, this is super warm. And I think if it had sleeves, it might be too warm for me to really use it all year long. So I just made up the stitching pattern, made up the shaping and stuff myself as I was going along, and then I took a skein of black wool ease that I had bought to make stockings for me and Steve, and I went ahead and held it double because that made it the same weight as the bulky weight that's through the rest of this. And I did ribbing on the front, and I made 1 buttonhole, and I put this super adorable green button in, and these buttons are from Joann's. They have a purple and a gray, and I love them, and I've already bought extras of all of these because I really like these buttons, which means they're going to disappear off the face of the earth, because that's what happens when I like things. They go away. So, anyways, that is my story of this cardigan, which I just really like. And I don't know, I feel like you just sometimes have to keep changing what you're doing with the materials till the materials are what they want to be. And I feel like this yarn is finally happy. It isn't trying to bust out of this and into something else. At least not yet. Who knows what next year will bring, right? But no, I think this is gonna stay this way, and I'm really enjoying it. All right, for the next thing, we're gonna take a little tour of my office. So, I redecorated, remodeled the side of my house this summer. I guess it started in May. Really didn't take us that long. And we completely gutted this room. Actually, over there used to be the door. In case you're new around here, there was a full doorway. And that doorway used to be a wall. So yeah, there's a lot of that. If you're interested in seeing how we did that, I followed the entire process of that on my daily vlog channel when I was still daily vlogging, which I might at some point start doing again. But Happenstance Place here on YouTube if you want to see those. But I had intended to put a shelf or something over this window because the space between these does not meet the standard dimensions of anything from this cabinet company that I used for the other stuff in my office. And I wanted a way to store things up there. But I decided that I actually also like the idea of having light be able to go through it so I could see things from the bottom and, you know, so I didn't feel so blocked in. So what I made was a toy hammock, which, I mean, you can't really see too well. It has some of my crochet toys. These are some things, like, I received those in a, like a, oh, what is the word? Like, I mailed to somebody and they mailed back, swap. And a swap, that's my jungle ring toy that I keep just to make me feel like I have made progress as a crocheter. Let's go under here and see if we can see. So I used a lace pattern that I just found in a Stitch Dictionary, and I just made a little hammock, and then Steve and I puttered around a bit, and there are cup hooks from the ceiling up here. There's a number of them, and then there's these little thingies that go into the, like, pegs on the side, and I just have the yarn kind of around them. It doesn't really fit super great, but it is serving its purpose. It's taking that space, and that gave me some more space on my shelves to put things that really needed to live on the shelves. And those decorative items didn't need to be on the shelves. So, that is my long story longer about my toy hammock, but I'm glad to have it done. And I like knowing there's a place I can toss toys and things like that I have if I just need a place for them to go. They now have a place where they can sit and be out of my space. We're reaching the home stretch here. On to item number 15 of things that I have completed. I completed a second pair of socks out of the same yarn as the last one. These have most definitely been worn. They were actually destined to go in to the laundry today, and I pulled them out because I needed to show them to you. So, these I made because there was a square on January's bingo board, which if you're interested in playing Let Peachly Play Bingo, there will be a free board for February up at Patreon on the Hooked by Happenstance Patreon page here very shortly. So, there was a square on there to do something in the opposite direction than usual. So, like if you're usually a toe-up person, do something cuff down. Or if you usually make hats from the top to the brim, do the brim up. That sort of thing. I mean, you could do the same thing with just about anything. If you're usually a sweater person, like I like to do top-down raglan. If you want to do from the waist up, which I am actually doing that right now, but that's for another podcast. Anyways, these are the Yates Mill cuff down socks from Ron Strong's Step Into Crochet, made out of that mill end yarn, and it uses, I used most of my standard measurements and things. However, I do not like this kind of cuff on my socks at all. This kind of ribbing is worthless, which I also think in sweaters and things, I just don't like the crocheted rib where you like work back and forth and then you like seam it and then you work around it. This never holds anything for me. So, yeah, these slide down, and then they're a lace sock, which, I mean, this was fun to work. They're just like a V-stitch lace. They're not like anything crazy, but they were fun to work. However, when you wear them and it is as cold as it has been here, the wind blows through them. Not so pleasant. So they make fine house socks. I will wear them for that. I was hoping for something that would be a little bit more universal that I could wear. Perhaps this wouldn't have been so bad as far as the cuff if I had not made the leg so long. But again, it is cold. I wanted socks that kept me cozy. So these are not a fail in any sense. They just taught me multiple things about the shaping and way they were constructed that just proved to me that I like toe up because I can try it on along the way and I can make the most out of my yarn because I know how much yarn I have left as I get to the ankle and I can make decisions about whether I want to like do shorty socks so I have more for another pair or if I want to just make the leg really long. I just feel like I have more options going toe up. But they're done, so that is good. And I got to mark a thing off on my bingo board, and then I got to mark lots of things off my bingo board, and that made me feel good. I finished 3 more things, but they're all kind of the same thing, but there's 3 objects. So for Christmas, we decided that we want to do stockings. We had bought stockings like when we got married. Steve and I have really been super into the stockings that we have. I don't know, no one's real attached to them, but when we were in the store and we were all talking and I made some little reference to making stockings, the kids were like, "What? You'll make us stockings? Yes, please." So I let them each pick a color of woolies. They each picked which color they wanted to be their main color because I knew I had a bunch of woolies in stash. So I bought this like bluish purple and this green and this red that they had picked. And then from stash, I had the like natural color, mustardy yellow, cream. I bought a skein of navy blue, and I had some of the brown. And so then they took die, and they rolled the die, and I assigned a number to each of the stitch patterns that I wanted to do, 1 through 6. And then I did 1 through 6 rows, depending what they had rolled. It's how Kendra's brain works, and it made me happy, and I wrote it in a little notebook, and it was all great. So I figured out how many things to do of each stitch to fill out the foot. Then I grabbed that color I used for the toe, I threw in a heel, then I did the leg, and then I just finished it off with what was left of the rest of that skein of yarn. There's a full skein of the red in here, and then bits and pieces of the other yarns that I had on hand. I used a standard sock recipe out of Ron Strong's Step Into Crochet. However, I added my own, obviously, patterning to the heel, or not the heel, to the foot and the cuff. But I went for making the foot like this is a scaled up size, using worsted weight, using the biggest sock that was listed in there. This is what size the sock turns out. So I used the stitch counts and everything from the book because I wanted a sock that was like more proportional to a human foot. Frequently when you see stockings, they have a short tiny little toe and then a big long leg, and I wanted a big long foot and then just a little bit of leg. And that is because when I use these, I want to be able to shove presents and things into the toe without it being visible from the top, so that inquiring minds that want to know what is in here are shut out because you don't get to know those things. So this is the final one. This one turned out a little bit differently shaped just because I made my camera so tired that the battery just stopped and you turned off. And I am tired too. That was a lot of items. So that is all the things that I finished in the month of January. I will tell you what I have been working on and what I'm working on right now in a different video because I feel like this is already really long. I did want to tell you before I leave though what I am wearing because you might want to know. So this is a Reminisce cardigan made out of the Reminisce sweater pattern by Heidi May of the Velvet Acorn. I, however, messed with math because I made this out of yarn that I had in stash. and I had to mess with the math to make that happen, 'cause it's a different weight. This is worsted. I think that the pattern's for DK. So I did that, and I did the stripy pattern on this by rolling a die, kind of like on the stockings, and then underneath I'm wearing one of the dresses that I made. I crocheted the top, I sewed a fabric bottom. It's all one piece, super comfy, and I'm wearing some socks, but my legs are quite stiff at this point from standing here, so I can't. They're socks. So but they are not out of that yarn. They're socks of a different yarn. That I made last year. Like I said, if you are interested in playing Let Peaches Play Bingo, check out my Patreon page, because that free bingo board will be up there for y'all. Also, in February, I am launching something new in my shop around Valentine's, a new way of doing Mystery Club that will be month to month. So if that's something you're interested in, keep your eyes on my Instagram at HookedByHappenstance and shop.hookedbyhappenstance.com, where those things will be appearing as the times come. Alrighty, I will see you all next time. Bye!